In this lecture, we will do the practice and revision of status of ism. Let us do a quick recap of the status of ism. The status of ism or i'rab of ism represents changes that occur at the end of the ism. Whenever the status of ism or its i'rab is being discussed, we should first think of the three forms of ism. These three forms have the same meaning. The three forms of an ism are the first form, which is also called Rafa, the second form, which is also called Nasab, and the third form, which is also called Jarr. So the three forms of ism from the standpoint of status are Rafa status, Nasab status, and Jarr status. An ism in the first form or Rafa status is called marfu. An ism in the second form or Nasab status is called mansoob, and an ism in its third form or Jarr status is called majroor. We then learned about the status of ism for different numbers of ism. For example, we studied the status of ism for a singular ism, for dual asma, for masculine non-broken plural, feminine non-broken plural, and for broken plural asma. We learned that the three forms of the ism will be on the same pattern for singular ism and for broken plural asma. And that pattern will be the identification of double pesh, double zabar, or double zair, also called tanween, at the end of the ism. So whenever we see double pesh, double zabar, or double zair at the end of the ism, we should be thinking about the three forms of a singular ism or a broken plural ism. In contrast to the finishing touch of an ism based on tanween, for the remainder of the asma, the three forms of the ism can be identified based on the ending sounds. For example, for dual asma, both masculine and feminine, we need to focus on the Aani or Aini ending sounds. Aani ending sound will represent Rafa status, and Aini ending sound will represent Nasab or Jarr status. For masculine non-broken plural, we need to focus on unaa or inaa ending sounds. Unaa ending sound will represent Rafa status. Inaa ending sound will represent Nasab or Jarr status. And finally, for feminine non-broken plural, we need to focus on atun or atin ending sounds. Atun ending sound will represent Rafa status, and atin ending sound will represent Nasab or Jarr status. To summarize, the status of an ism represents the finishing touch at the end of the ism, and that finishing touch can either be in the form of harakat at the end of the ism, or it can be in the form of ending sounds at the end of the ism. Therefore, it is important to focus both on harakat at the end of the ism as well as the ending sound at the end of the ism for us to accurately identify the status of a particular ism. We will use this table to do the practice of the status of ism. In the table, we have a column for masculine asma and we have a column for feminine asma. For both masculine and feminine asma, we will try to identify the three forms of the status of the asma. We have a row for singular ism, we have a row for dual asma, we have a row for non-broken plural asma, both masculine and feminine, and finally we have a row for broken plural asma. The table is color-coded to reflect similarities in the patterns of the status of ism. For example, for singular ism and for broken plural ism, the yellow color will identify a similar pattern of the first form, second form, and third form of the ism. Let us begin our practice of the status of ism. The first word that we have is Muslim. Muslim is a sifat or an adjective or attribute. The three forms of the singular masculine form of Muslim are Muslimun, Musliman, and Muslimin. Please note that in the Nasab status or the second form, after the double zabar on the last harf, we have to add an alif towards the end of the ism. The feminine singular form of Muslim is Muslima, and the three forms will be Muslimatun, Muslimatan, and Muslimatin. In Muslimatan, we are not adding an alif at the end of the ism because of the presence of the gol ta at the end of the ism. So, for singular ism Muslim, the three forms of masculine and feminine status are Muslimun, Musliman, Muslimin, Muslimatun, Muslimatan, and Muslimatin. The dual form of Muslim for masculine will be Muslimani, Muslimaini, and Muslimaini. Muslimani represents the first form or Rafa status. Muslimaini represents the Nasab and the Jarr status. For feminine, in the dual form we have Muslimatani, Muslimataini, and Muslimataini. To recap dual ism, for Muslim, the dual form will be on the pattern of Aani and Aini. And in the masculine section, we have Muslimani, Muslimaini, Muslimaini. And for feminine, we have Muslimatani, Muslimataini, and Muslimataini. Please note that Muslim is a sifat, and because it is a sifat, it will not have the broken plural version. So, because Muslim is a sifat, its plural will be the non-broken plural form or sound-based plural form. Please note that there are exceptions, and sometimes the Arabs will use broken plural for sifat. For example, kafir. Kafir is a sifat, which means a disbeliever. So the broken plural of kafir is kuffar. And kafir is also used in the non-broken plural form such as kafiruna. So for ism kafir, we will have both versions, that is the broken plural form and the non-broken plural form. But for an ism like Muslim, we only use the sound-based plural ending or the non-broken plural form. So for Muslim, in the masculine version, the non-broken plural or the sound-based plural forms will be Muslimuna, Muslimina, Muslimina. Muslimuna represents the Rafa status, Muslimina represents Nasab or Jarr status. And the non-broken plural form for feminine will be Muslimatun, Muslimatin, Muslimatin. So please note, even though there is the double pesh and double zair at the end of the ism, our focus is on the ending sound, which is atun and atin. So the overall chart is Muslimun, Musliman, Muslimin, Muslimatun, Muslimatan, Muslimatin, Muslimani, Muslimaini, Muslimaini, Muslimatani, Muslimataini, Muslimataini, Muslimuna, Muslimina, Muslimina, Muslimatun, Muslimatin, Muslimatin. Next we have the ism mu'min. Mu'min means a believer. Mu'min is a sifat or an adjective or attribute. We will first study the masculine forms of ism mu'min. In the masculine singular category, we have mu'minun, mu'minan, and mu'minin. Please note the alif that has been added at the end of mu'minan. In the masculine dual category, which is sound-based, we have mu'minani, mu'minaini, mu'minaini. Please focus on Aani ending sound for Rafa and Aini ending sound for Nasab or Jarr. In the masculine non-broken plural or sound-based plural, we have mu'minuna, mu'minina, mu'minina. Please focus on the unaa ending sound in Rafa status and ina ending sound in Nasab or Jarr status. Again, since mu'min is a sifat, we will not have broken plural versions for mu'min. Now let's move to the feminine side. The feminine version of mu'min is mu'mina. So for singular feminine asma, we will have mu'minatun, mu'minatan, mu'minatin. Please notice that at the end of mu'minatan, we do not need to add an alif at the end of the ism because of the presence of the goal ta at the end of the ism. For feminine dual asma, we have mu'minatani, mu'minataini, mu'minataini. Again, we have the Aani ending sound for Rafa and Aini ending sound for Nasab and Jarr. And finally, for feminine non-broken plural or sound-based plural, we have mu'minatun, mu'minatin, mu'minatin. For Rafa, we have the atun ending sound, and Nasab, we have the atin ending sound, and for Jarr, we have the atin ending sound. To summarize, for mu'min, we have mu'minun, mu'minan, mu'minin, mu'minani, mu'minaini, mu'minaini, mu'minuna, mu'minina, mu'minina, mu'minatun, mu'minatan, mu'minatin, mu'minatani, mu'minataini, mu'minataini, mu'minatun, mu'minatin, mu'minatin. Our next ism is abid. Abid is a sifat. Abid means the one who worships. For masculine versions of abid, we have abidun, abidan, abidin, abidani, abidaini, abidaini, abiduna, abidina, abidina. The feminine version of abid is abida, and we have abidatun, abidatan, abidatin, abidatani, abidataini, abidataini, abidatun, abidatin, abidatin, abidun, abidan, abidin, abidani, abidaini, abidaini, abiduna, abidina, abidina, abidatun, abidatan, abidatin, abidatani, abidataini, abidataini, abidatun, abidatin, abidatin. The purpose of repetition is to make sure that at least we can memorize the ending sounds. That is, for dual asma, we always have to focus on the Aani and Aini ending sound. For masculine non-broken plural, we have the unaa and inaa ending sound. And for feminine non-broken plural, we have the atun and atin ending sounds. Our next ism is hafiz. Hafiz is also a sifat. The different forms of hafiz will be hafizun, hafizan, hafizin, hafizani, hafizaini, hafizaini, hafizuna, hafizina, hafizina. The feminine of hafiz is hafiza. So the different forms of hafiza will be hafizatun, hafizatan, hafizatin, hafizatani, hafizataini, hafizataini, hafizatun, hafizatin, hafizatin. Zakir is the one who remembers. Zakir is also a sifat, and the feminine version of zakir will be zakira. For zakir, the three forms will be zakirun, zakiran, zakirin, zakirani, zakiraini, zakiraini, zakiruna, zakirina, zakirina. And for zakira, we have zakiratun, zakiratan, zakiratin, zakiratani, zakirataini, zakirataini, zakiratun, zakiratin, zakiratin. To recap, we have zakirun, zakiran, zakirin, zakirani, zakiraini, zakiraini, zakiruna, zakirina, zakirina, zakiratun, zakiratan, zakiratin, zakiratani, zakirataini, zakirataini, zakiratun, zakiratin, zakiratin. Qaim means the one who is standing. Qaim is a sifat, and the feminine version of qaim is qaima. The masculine forms of qaim are qaimun, qaiman, qaimin, qaimani, qaimaini, qaimaini, qaimuna, qaimina, qaimina. And the feminine forms are qaimatun, qaimatan, qaimatin, qaimatani, qaimataini, qaimataini, qaimatun, qaimatin, qaimatin. Again, Aani sound represents Rafa status. Aini sounds represents Nasab or Jarr status. Unaa sound represents Rafa status. Ina sound represents Nasab or Jarr status. Atun sound represents Rafa status, and atin ending sound represents Nasab or Jarr status. Next we have the ism walad. Walad means boy. Walad is not a sifat. It is not an adjective or an attribute. The feminine version of walad is bint, which means girl. Girl is also not a sifat, and it is not an adjective or attribute. The status chart for walad will be as follows: waladun, waladan, waladin, waladani, waladaini, waladaini. Since walad is not a sifat, typically we will not have non-broken plural version of walad. The plural will be on the pattern of broken plural forms. So for walad, the broken plural is awlad, and the three forms will be awladun, awladan, awladin. So the status chart for walad is waladun, waladan, waladin, waladani, waladaini, waladaini, awladun, awladan, awladin. Now let's study bint. The status chart for bint will be on the patterns of bintun, bintan, bintin. Over here we'll have to add an alif at the end of the ism because we don't have a gol ta. This is just a regular ta. Bintani, bintaini, bintaini. Even though bint is not a sifat, the Arabs use the feminine form of bint on the pattern of non-broken plural. So we have banatun, banatin, banatin. Again we have the atun and atin ending sounds. So for bint, the status chart is bintun, bintan, bintin, bintani, bintaini, bintaini, banatun, banatin, banatin. Next we have the ism rajul. Rajul is not a sifat. It is not an adjective or an attribute. The opposite of rajul is imra'a. Imra'a means woman. Woman is also not a sifat. It is not an adjective or attribute. Because both rajul and imra'a are not sifat, we will not have non-broken plural versions for rajul or for imra'a. Rather, we will have broken plural forms for rajul and for imra'a. The singular pattern of rajul will be rajulun, rajulan, rajulin. The dual pattern for rajul will be rajulani, rajulaini, rajulaini. And the broken plural pattern for rajul is rijalun, rijalan, rijalin. For imra'a, the singular pattern is imra'atun, imra'atan, imra'atin. The dual pattern is imra'atani, imra'ataini, imra'ataini. The broken plural of imra'a is nisa. So we have nisa'un, nisa'an, nisa'in. Rajulun, rajulan, rajulin, rajulani, rajulaini, rajulaini, rijalun, rijalan, rijalin, imra'atun, imra'atan, imra'atin, imra'atani, imra'ataini, imra'ataini, nisa'un, nisa'an, nisa'in. Next we have the ism kitab, which means book. Please note that kitab is a non-living entity and kitab is masculine. So because kitab is masculine, we are not going to have any feminine version for ism kitab. So kitab is a non-living entity. It is not a sifat because it's not an adjective or attribute. So we will only have the three forms of kitab on the masculine side. On the singular pattern, we have kitabun, kitaban, kitabin. On the dual pattern, we have kitabani, kitabaini, kitabaini. Because kitab is not a sifat, we will not have non-broken plural forms. We will have broken plural forms on the pattern of kutubun, kutuban, kutubin. Next we have the ism qalam. Qalam means pen. Qalam is masculine and it is a non-living entity. Therefore, we will only have the three forms of qalam on the masculine side and not on the feminine side. Qalam is not a sifat. Therefore, we will not have non-broken plural forms of qalam. We will have broken plural forms of qalam. And the broken plural form of qalam is aqlam. So, we have qalamun, qalaman, qalamin, qalamani, qalamaini, qalamaini, aqlamun, aqlaman, aqlamin. Next we have the ism ain. Ain means eye or spring. So ism ain has two meanings. Ain is always used in the feminine sense. So we will not have the three forms of ain on the masculine side. Ain is also not a sifat. Therefore, we will only have broken plural patterns of ism ain and we will not have the non-broken plural forms. On the singular pattern, ism ain will be ainun, ainan, ainin. On the dual pattern, we will have ainani, ainaini, ainaini. The broken plural forms of ain depends on the meaning of the word. For example, Allah says in Surah 77, Ayah 41, "Indeed, the righteous will be amid cool shade and springs." The word used for springs is uyunin. So, if we are referring to the plural form of spring, we will say uyunun, uyunan, uyunin. Allah also says in the Qur'an, Surah 25, Ayah 74, "And those who pray, our Lord, grant unto us wives and offspring, who will be the comfort of our eyes, and give us the grace to lead the righteous." The word used for eyes is ayunin. So, if we are referring to the plural version of eye, we will say ayunun, ayunan, ayunin. We now have the completed status chart. We will go through it one more time. In the singular group, we have Muslimun, Musliman, Muslimin, Muslimatun, Muslimatan, Muslimatin. Please note that for singular Asma, we will identify the status based on the harakat at the end of the ism. And for the Nasab status, we will add an alif after double zabr. The only exceptions are if the ism ends in a gol ta or if the ism ends in alif and hamza coming together. In the dual category, we have Muslimani, Muslimaini, Muslimaini, Muslimatani, Muslimataini, Muslimataini. For dual, please focus on the Aani and Aini ending sounds to identify Rafa or Nasab Jarr. For non-broken plural, that is masculine, we have to focus on the ending sound, which is Muslimuna, Muslimina, Muslimina. So for masculine non-broken plural, we have to focus on the unaa and